Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om Shruti Smruti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Imame Bhagavatpada Shankaram Lokashankaram Mishrasya Sattvasya Bhavanti Dharmaha Tvamanitadya Niyamayamaadyaha Shraddha cha bhaktischa mumukshutta cha Daivi cha sampattirasannivrittihi. So we are living in the bondage of the gunas, and so to realize the truth you have to go beyond the gunas. This is what is called gunatita. So in Gita also we talk of going beyond the gunas. And sagunan atitya brahma bhuyaya, sagunan atitya etan brahma bhuyaya kalpate, like that. So how to conquer the gunas? Conquering or going beyond, one and the same. So the tamo guna has to be conquered by activity. Suppose you noticed a lot of tamoguna, laziness in you. So you conquer it by activity. Become more active and take up some activity. Karmas are meant for that, to make people active so that they conquer the laziness. And then having conquered tamoguna with rajas, now you have to conquer rajoguna with the sattva. And so that is what we are looking at. Still some rajas and some tamas will be there, but predominantly sattva. And then how to conquer sattva? Sattvam sattvena jayat. You conquer sattva with sattva. Means as you abide in sattva, you become gunatita. You go beyond the gunas. Because the distinction between sattva and gunatita is very, very minimal. Sattva is almost gunatita. Gunatita, a little change becomes a sattva. Sattva, a little improvement becomes gunatita, like that. Flip-flop. Therefore, you have to establish yourself in sattva. The inner organ, the consciousness, same name, whether I call it consciousness or inner organ, antahkarana, it is one and the same. So the consciousness must be predominantly sattva, and rajas and tamas will be in a small proportion. This is what he is saying, mishrasya sattvasya bhavanti dharmaha. And one of the important hallmarks of good sattva, the predominant sattva, is bhakti. We started with amanitadyaha, a big list. We will come back to the list depending upon the time. I want to speak a little about bhakti. You see, bhakti is also there, bhaktischa. So otherwise I will not have time for bhakti. So bhakti is love. That is the translation. Devotion, they say. Bhakti is devotion. What is devotion? Devotedness, which is love. In the context of dualistic religions, bhakti is not simply devotion or love. They don't say love. Because love directed towards God, that is bhakti. That is how they look at it. Because the theological schools, for them, God is an entity. Quite often, a big man. Generally, the theological schools are like that. They bring the God to that level. That God is an elderly person, or a big man, a powerful guy. Sometimes autocratic also. So, and therefore you must be devoted to that God. You must be loving of that God. That is called bhakti. But in Advaita Vedanta, in philosophy, it is not defined like that. It is simply said love. Bhakti is love. Love of God, not necessary to say that. Simply say love, that is enough. You know why? Because Sarvam Khalvidam Brahma. All of this is God only. When you are looking at the world, you are looking at God. There is no God other than the world. World is what you see, what you make of. What is, I say again, I put it this way, what is God. What you make out is the world. Therefore, when you are looking at the world, you are looking at God. Therefore, the love of God, you need not say. When you say love of God, thereby you are separating God from everything else. And so you have to divert the love from other things towards God. Like that you say. But we say love is bhakti. Bhakti is love. Because everything is God. Then what is love? So, you see, love is not memory. Suppose you perform a ritual based on memory. That is not love. Therefore, ritual is not devotion. I am not against rituals. Don't think like that. I am not against anything. But you need to make an observation, you know. You have to examine the fact. That is called philosophy. So, ritual which is performed based on memory, that is not love. There may be love in the ritual, but ritual itself is not love. Quite often, when we perform rituals mechanically, the love is lost. There is no love lost in those rituals. Only it is simply done in a mechanical way. And quite often you do it because you are supposed to do it that way. And if you don't do, the elders will scold, and you will lose your respectability. So like that, there are some issues in not doing. Therefore, be done with it, so finish it and be done with it. Like that it is done. The love is not there. But if there is love in the ritual, that is great. The point is, ritual itself is not love. And also, ritual done without love is like a flower without fragrance. There is no much value in it. Therefore, love is not memory. That is one thing you have to keep in mind. And love is not emotionalism. Generally, bhakti in India, it is taken as emotionalism. Quite often they do that. They take it like that. And all the Dvaita schools where the division is there, the division is taken as the truth, they take emotionalism as love, That is how they take. And that's why you see very crass or gross manifestations of this emotionalism, where the people, quite often women, occasionally men also, they will be swooning and they will be possessed by some god or goddess, etc. You must have come across such scenes. In Andhra Pradesh and Telangana, it is Lord Vivekachudamani Swami who possesses. And in North India, it must be Hanuman who possesses, not Vivekachudamani Swami, because not that much popular. And if you go further down south, it is Ayyappa who possesses quite often. So like that. This kind of working up oneself into some emotionalism and giving the expression to that emotionalism, that is not love. In fact, that is very misleading. Sometimes people, they work themselves up, you know. So, by you go on jumping and you put yourself into a state of abandon, and then you forget yourself momentarily. You are free from the sense of me and mine, and a kind of an emotional energy will take over the body and also the mind, and therefore you will be swaying, swooning, all kinds of things you will be doing. And I have seen one person doing harati to God, So let us say God is at the other end of the wall, and this man comes to the very other end of the hall, and then he holds the harati in his hand, quite a lot of big lump of that camphor. He puts it on fire, and so he holds it very strongly in his hand, and he runs from this end to that end. He will do harati like that 2 times, and again comes back here and again runs like that. He will be doing. So he is all worked up, highly worked up, and in between they give way to him because he is in a state of very high emotionalism, and better you don't disturb him. So, and people watch such spectacles, and with a lot of enthusiasm people watch such spectacles, and they conclude that that is bhakti. That is not bhakti, that is emotionalism, and that could be some psychic issue also, and the person should take, he is advised to consult a physician, and even a psychiatrist is good for him. These people are psychotic fellows. There is no bhakti in all that. And so now you want to say, okay, they are getting something out of it. All the people around, 1,000 people have assembled. They are all clapping and getting something out of it. Probably they need it. If that is how you want to look at it, then that is a very condescending way of looking at common folk. Probably when bhakti is presented in the right way, they will appreciate it, I suppose. That is my experience. When bhakti is presented in the right way, the people, though illiterate, they are receptive to that, and they appreciate it, they love it, and they follow it. And therefore, assuming that the common folk are ignorant and therefore they are very useless people, they don't deserve anything better than that, therefore give them that kind of a stuff that is okay with them, and therefore there is a justification for such a stuff. That argument is not a proper argument. It is not correct to argue like that. You have to see what is the truth, and the truth alone should be pursued. And therefore, that kind of emotionalism and sentimentality is not bhakti. Bhakti is love, and love is not an emotion. It's not a state of emotional mind. Love, then what is love? Love is the state of being. That is what love is. A state of being. You know what it is. When you transcend the body-mind and abide in the pure being, and that is the state of love, because love is to being is like fragrance is to flower. That is the connection between being and love, like the connection between the flower and its fragrance. Talking of the flowers, you see, you don't mind my telling my small observation. I was in a park in the morning, and I was walking, strolling slowly, and then I suddenly saw a devotee. Because you can recognize the devotee, he wears some reddish clothes, very red clothing, and marks on the face also. You can recognize he is a devotee. That is wonderful. And he has a basket in his hand, a bamboo basket in his hand. And now he entered the park, and then there is a plant by the side. Many plants are there which are full of flowers. And then I noticed that he came to collect flowers. And when he saw the plants, I could see the greed for flowers in his eyes. And immediately he pounced upon one of the plants and started ripping off the flowers, along with some stem also, breaking the stem. And a few leaves also will come. So a little stem and 2-3 leaves and a full-blown flower, the flower in full bloom. Like that he is ripping off the plant. And he was picking every flower within the reach. And the flowers were very lovely. They are very tender things. Just then the sun is rising. and the flowers are opening themselves to the rising sun. And but he did not have any tendency to appreciate that scene. He is very intent upon plucking as many flowers as he could and fill his basket. And he did not pick them gently either. He tore them off, viciously stripping the plant of whatever flowers it has. And so he fills his basket because he was very anxious to worship a graven image with those flowers. And I was the witness to this scene. I was wondering, is that all bhakti? I was wondering, because bhakti is love. Love expresses as a tenderness and that mellifluousness, the ardrata of the heart. That is what love is. Love cannot be so vicious and so determined and so anxious to worship a graven image. And therefore, I felt that is not love. And then, anyway, he filled his basket and left, and I was still strolling in the park. And then I saw some youngsters come to the park. And they saw the flowers and they started, one or two of them, they pick a flower or two. And what are they going to do with those flowers? They are not going to offer those flowers to God. Just they are talking among themselves and thoughtlessly tearing off the flowers from the plant. And having plucked a flower, they further tear it into pieces and throw it all around. And throw them away. That is what they are doing. They were doing all of that very thoughtlessly. They were not paying any attention to what they were doing. Very casually they were doing that. So I felt they are young people, they should not do such a vicious thing to the plant and to the flower. They should not be so inconsiderate to the beauty of the flowers. But then even elders do that. When walking, they break off a twig of a plant. The elders, they just break off a branch of the plant or a tree, a twig, and then break it into further pieces, or pull out a leaf and then make it into 10 pieces and throw away. So this kind of a brutality and a viciousness we find in the elders also. And the question, they should put the question, why such a thoughtless action? Why should be so thoughtlessly performing such actions? So maybe I felt that is one way of the inner brutality and viciousness expressing itself outwardly. That is what I felt. And so when the heart is filled with such a brutality, viciousness, violence, such a heart cannot entertain what is called love. And so then I was walking in the park further, and then suddenly I found a lady who came, and she saw all these plants in full bloom. She gently plucked a flower and put in her braid maybe, and pulled out one more flower. Maybe she wanted to offer that flower with love to someone else, whatever may be the reason. And probably we can understand that. Maybe there is nothing to feel sad about it or unhappy about that. So, if the lady wants to put a flower in the braid, or you want to offer a flower to whatever, to a person or to an altar, whatever, so gently picking a flower and offering, maybe we can understand that. That may not be against bhakti. But suppose you do not touch the plant, you do not want to disturb the plant, because you respect all life, suppose. That is altogether a different situation. And that is simple love. You just don't disturb the plant at all. And you respect all life. That is simple love. That is not the complex love of God as preached by the dualistic religions. That love of God, that bhakti, etc. is very complex. And it expresses in very elaborate rituals where there is no tenderness in the people who perform those rituals. Whereas I just walk my way and look at the plant and the flowers, and I am very cautious not to disturb any one of them. In fact, I don't walk rushing forward in a way that my hand touches the plant. Even that I don't allow to happen. And I remain very tender and respect all life. So that love is that is a very simple love it is. There is no complexity in it. There is no ritualism in it. There are no beliefs behind it. There is no emotionalism behind it. It is very simple love. Very simple it is. Respect for all life. And that is love. That tenderness, the gentleness in one's approach to all things, that is love. That sensitivity, the alertness not to do any harm to any life, to any plant or any people, to animals or to flowers, etc. That alertness not to cause any harm to any of the life, that is love. That is bhakti. So people have to understand correctly. And I would caution the devotees, if you have devotion in your heart, if you convert the devotion into a ritual, like reverence is ritualized, like you revere an elderly person, maybe he is a teacher and therefore you have great respect, and now you ritualize that reverence. Similarly, you have devotion, you have love, and you convert it into a ritual. When you do that, in all likelihood, the spirit of love will be totally lost. People have to pay attention to that. For example, the example stands before us, we see it every day, the river Ganga. It is a very sacred river, like any other river. Any stream, a natural flow of water, it is called a river. These are all names, nama, given to a rupa. If it is a small flow, you call it a creek. If it is a bigger flow, you call it a river. Otherwise, it is the same water. So, you see, it's a natural flow of water, and you see that and you respect it. You do not disturb it. You do not pollute it. And you have a respect, very simple respect to it. It is not the complex respect of a religious mind towards the river Ganga, which has originated in the heaven and then has come down to earth, and then it will go to the Netherlands, etc. And the Ganga which was brought into the earth by a great person by performing this much penance. So like that. It is not such a complex love of a ritualist or complex love of a religionist. It is not that complex love. It is a very simple love. The respect for the nature's manifestation. So river is a very sacred thing and fresh, and we should not disturb that. Allow it to flow the way it flows. Now you have a love for the river. Now suppose you convert that love into ritual. Now what you do is, you carry all the flowers and other things of worship and throw them into the river, including the plastic bag in which you carried those flowers and other things, all of them, including the plastic bag, including the paper in which these things are packed, and the string, all of that are thrown into the river. After throwing, first throw the flowers, first offer the flowers, and then throw other things. And then pollute the river in a very possible way, stop its flow, interrupt or obstruct its flow by putting the cement structures there, and then put idols there and then offer things to those idols and create a dirty place there. So this way, when you and then some prayers, etc., and harati, etc., another very peculiar ritual, when you convert the reverence that you have for the pure great river into a ritual, then the river, once the ritual is, harati is over, no respect is left now. Because it was, once you do the ritual, you wash off the hands. Harati you have done, it is over. You cannot do whole night harati, Therefore, 2 times, 3 times you do it, and some more bell ringing, and so some more. And some more mantra you have to say. You say it and do one more time, and it is over now. And then throw everything and wash it in the same river and throw the rest into the river and walk away. So you have paid your reverence. This is what is called ritualized reverence. I suggest before you to think, in every case where a reverence is ritualized or the love is converted into a ritualistic expression, in all such cases, the spirit of reverence or the spirit of love is soon lost and you are stuck with a meaningless ritual. It happens like that. Therefore, a sattvic mind, that is all rajoguna, a sattvic mind will not stoop to that level. It retains its sensitivity, its alertness, and the sattvic mind maintains its tender feeling for things, the tenderness of heart, to be sensitive, to feel for people, to feel for birds, animals, and for to feel for flowers, to feel for trees. Suppose you cut the branch, it will hurt the tree. So like that you feel for the tree, not because they are yours. Suppose you maintain a garden and you feel for them, those plants and those flowers, because they are your flowers. Oh, this is the special rose that I have brought up, and now the rose has come, and therefore I care for it, because it is my garden, my plant, and my rose. No, that is not love. That is, one more time, me and mine syndrome it is. You care for the trees, you feel for the trees, or the plants, or the things in general, not because they are yours, but because of that inner tenderness and sensitivity. Because you are awake to the extraordinary beauty of things, and you take care not to disturb them, leave them alone. So the moment you are deeply sensitive that way, naturally you will not go for plucking the flowers. You will not do that, because your deep sensitivity goes against plucking the flowers. That is a brutality that amounts to violence. So there is a spontaneous love and desire not to destroy things, not to hurt the living things, which means having real love. That is real love. And such a love is most important thing in life. Not the ritualized devotion, but that tender, that simple love which I tried to describe, that is the most important thing in life. On the other hand, when you love someone because that person loves you in return, surely that is not love. That is not love. That is a mutual exploitation or psychological dependence. That is not love. So that also we should pay attention. So to love means to have this extraordinary feeling of affection without asking anything in return. That is love, true love. And you see, generally, people are very clever, people are highly intellectuals and highly logical. People are head people, not heart people. And they pass exams and acquire university degrees and achieve a high position and make a lot of money, etc. But if they don't have this tenderness, if they don't have this sensitivity, this feeling of simple love, not the complex love of the ritualists and the dualists and theologians. That love is, it is mind-boggling. I mean, it is very confusing love it is. And so the simple love, not some imagined love, like Radha loved Krishna, Radhe, Radhe, this, that. Not that kind of imagined love. Very simple love. The love that I would love to have is very simple. I am trying to describe it in the simplest possible terms. And so you may accomplish big things in life, but if you don't have that sensitivity, that feeling of simple love, if you don't have, then your heart will be empty. and your life will be like a flower without fragrance. And also, you will be miserable for the rest of the life. You will remain unhappy. You cannot experience that bliss without that simple love in the heart. And that simple love is sattva guna. And truth is very simple. Truth is not complex. Suppose you ask me, what is the truth? How? Truth, what? How? Suppose I start an elaborate method of reaching the truth and describing the truth, etc. There are there. And if I start describing, you may not like it also. Some of you may not like it, because it will hurt them. I mean, it will attack their belief system. So something happens, something goes up, something comes down, etc. Very elaborate descriptions, this and that. So very, very complex descriptions, etc. are presented in the name of truth. That is not truth. Truth will not be like that. Truth will be very simple, very simple. Similarly, love is also very simple. And without love in the heart, a human being is an ugly human being. Outwardly, he may look very nice and very beautiful, maybe very fair skin, fair and lovely kind of thing. He could be, he or she, and may wear a very lovable dress and all that. Maybe a very great athlete with a strong and attractive body, etc. But without love in the heart, the human being becomes an ugly human being. So, when you love, when you have that tenderness in your heart, that simple love in your heart, whether your face is beautiful or not, the face has a radiance. It may not be beautiful in the normal sense of the term, but the face has a radiance. When there is love, there is a radiance. We have a proverb, when the crow, which looks very black and not very attractive, but when the crow looks at its kid with love, there is a radiance and there is a beauty in the face of that crow. So like that. Therefore, so to love is the greatest thing in life, to be able to love. Once I was telling in a discussion, you should be loving. If you have to choose between love and logic, you should choose love, not logic. Logic belongs to the head, love belongs to the heart. We were born heart people, but as we grew up, we have become intellectuals and very calculating people, very clever and cunning. Thereby, we have grown into head people. So, now the spiritual journey, that is the worldly journey, the mundane journey. Now the spiritual journey is the reversal of that process. Namely, from the head people, we have to become the heart people. So if you have to choose between logic and love, you have to choose love, not logic. Like if you have to offer a diamond ring to the to your beloved, you have to go ahead and do it, because that is the expression of love. But if you apply logic, then a diamond ring is the most worthless thing to own. Absolutely useless thing it is. So a packet of cookies is more valuable than a diamond ring, really speaking. But you cannot apply logic there. You have to apply love only. And so you have to choose, when you have to choose love. And love, because love is the greatest thing in life, you have to strive to feel the love, the tenderness, that sensitivity, and you have to nourish that tenderness, and you have to treasure the love in life. So, the moment you have this extraordinary thing called love in your heart, you will discover that for you, the world is already transformed. And finally, I would say, love is God. That's why bhakti is love. Love is God. And when you condition your mind that God is a physical entity, like a man or a woman, a big man or a powerful woman, etc., that becomes a physical entity. So you have put physicality or materiality into God and made God into an object, and then you try to get devoted to that image, and so that is a very complex thing in life. And for you, the world may appear not a good place, filled with so much adharma, this and that, but instead of such complexity of religion and all that, if you have that simple love, if you cultivate that simple love, for you, the world is at once transformed. It is not the same world anymore, and it is not an ugly world anymore. When you see ugliness in the world, that is a reflection of your own inner ugliness. And therefore the world will be transformed, and you are already with the Godhead, because the love, simple, pure love, is God. Prema. So, in Gita, this topic is presented in a big deal, in a big way. Adveshta sarvabhutanam maitrah karuna evacha ityadi. So, there, Same Priyaha, he is the most loved one to me. That is the devotee. The devotee who is like this is the most loved one to me. And the devotee loves me, and I love the devotee. Like that, you hear a lot about love. And that bhakti you have to cultivate in the heart. So, as I have already mentioned, a loving heart is very generous, and it is very kind, very unreserved. It doesn't hold back anything. And such a heart alone knows the truth. And such a pure, tender, loving heart alone knows that which has no beginning and which has no end. That is the reality, that is the God. And when the heart is filled with the things of the mind, means the mundane things, then such a heart will not, means when you get attached to the things of the world, saying that I love this thing, I love that thing, I love to do this, I love to eat that, like that. When your heart is filled with the mundane things, you will fail to know the truth of the self. So that is something about bhakti. And bhakti is what you feel, not what you think. So a lot of thought process is not bhakti. And a little of feeling becomes bhakti. Generally, people may be very highly accomplished in their thought process, in their intellectual, in their intellect, but may not have any feeling left in them. Because when the intellect takes a dominant position in life, the love will be gone from life, and such people will not come to know the truth. Therefore, intellect should not dominate. So, Vagvaikhari, Shabdajhari, etc. When intellect dominates, the feeling will be lost. You better want to have a feeling in the place of so much intellect. Therefore, intellectual accomplishments are not the path of self-realization. The tenderness, the love, the sensitivity, that will take you to the truth very easily, the simple love. Bhaktischa. Mumukshutacha. There is another thing called mumukshutvam. You see, what is it that you want? People are confused. They are not sure what they want. Suppose you come to Rishikesh. What is the purpose of your coming to Rishikesh? Sometimes people are very clever also. They are not only confused but very clever. So suppose you go to Rishikesh, you can have a bath in Ganga so that you can wash off your earlier sins. That is one very meaningful purpose. Then you can visit some of the nice things which are around Rishikesh, and some tourism also, religious tourism, what they call pilgrimage, is accomplished. And then there the Swami seems to be taking some classes at the same time. Sometimes the classes may sound very weird and all that, but let us give a try to that also. So like this, people are very clever, and they are very clever and cunning also. I mean, they try to derive so many things in one go. I mean, so they have too many goals to be satisfied in one effort. So they want something of the worldly things, they want something of the religion, and something of philosophy, and they want to make a nice mix of all these things. That is the cleverness, that is the cunningness there. And so, like there is a proverb, Amrascha Siktaha Pitarascha Truptaha. So he is performing Pitru Tarpanam, means offering water to the ancestors. And so instead of throwing water here and there, put that water in the base of a plant. So the plant also will get water. So double purpose is served. So similarly, if you sit in Rishikesh, you can enjoy one or two bhandaras and also have one or two classes and have one or two Ganga Haratis, and maybe one time a bath also you can have. Like that, they have multiple goals in mind. They are not after the moksha and all that. So some dharma, some artha, some kama, and if moksha comes in the deal, we don't mind. That is the approach. That's why this moksha thing never works. Other things, there is nothing to work in them. You can get those things done, and life goes on. And there is nothing more to happen there. Moksha is, and people don't want it. Suppose a rich man is there. Suppose you offer him moksha. Then he will ask, what will happen to my riches if I get moksha? No, the riches won't go anywhere. They will still be with you. Oh, will I be able to command all those riches even after moksha? Yes, you will be able to command. Then I don't mind. That is the moksha. So for a rich man, his moksha vision is like that. And in Mimamsa, we discuss there is always a tiff between the ritualist versus the philosopher. And so the philosopher pushes for knowledge, whereas the ritualist pushes for action, karma, ritual. And so the ritualist makes a proposal after elaborate back and forth arguments and counter-arguments. The ritualist proposes a middle path. Why not you accept some of my rituals and I will accept some of your knowledge, so that we can live in peace? 50-50. This is called the 50-50 thesis. This is called Jnana Karma Samuchaya Vada. We come across this thesis all the time in Bhashyas, particularly in Gita Bhashyam. And Shankara refutes it outright. This 50-50, 50 jnana, 50% jnana, 50% karma, some jnana and some karma, percentages could vary, means by doing karma, you will gain virtue, punyam, and you can go to heaven. And by acquiring knowledge, you can get moksha also. Why not have both? When both are good, let us have both. Why not one? Why one? Why exclusively one? Therefore, they present this thesis. And there are schools, the dualistic schools, theological schools, who adopt that thesis. That's why you find some of the sannyasis, they are karma, they are not, they don't give up karma. In fact, in Vedanta, you take to sannyasa to give up karma. Whereas these guys, they take to sannyasa to perform karmas. But then, how can you do karma by being a sannyasi? So that is a peculiar kind of sannyasa. There, except the wife, everything associated with karma is there. Only wife is not there because it is the sannyasa. So they keep the tuft of hair, that is not cut off. Whereas in our sannyasa, that is the first thing which is, that is first casualty. So, so no tuft of hair anymore. And then yajnopavetam, the sacred thread they keep. And then they keep the staff. The staff itself is it a staff? Danda. How do you call it? A staff only. Staff only. But the staff itself is very complex. It is not one staff. Two or three of them are tied together. Tridanda. Two or three of them are tied together, and how many knots will be there. And the staff itself will have how many breaks in between. And how many knots will be there in the staff. And then what kind of a cloth should be tied below and what kind of cloth should be tied above. And then the staff is worshipped on a daily basis, morning and evening. And the staff, you should not remove yourself from the staff not more than a meter at any given time. And in India, when some of these Swamis enter into the flight with the staff, the captain, they oblige. The flight staff, they oblige. And the captain also obliges. But occasionally there comes a captain who refuses to permit this gentleman. And this gentleman refuses to give up his staff. They say, we will check it in. They don't accept. No, you cannot touch it. I cannot check it in. And therefore the flight is sitting there and this gentleman don't get down with his staff and the captain doesn't relent. Like that, it is an episode now. And the matter is referred to the state government, then the central government, and everybody is afraid of doing something. And the politicians are afraid that they lose their votes. And this captain doesn't relent, so you have a scene there. And finally some kind of compromise will be made and the flight takes off after a delay of few hours. So this is how a very complex system of karma and jnanam that comes into the sannyasa, that kind of thing you find. Anyway, I have digressed already a little or more. Coming back to the point, you cannot have that kind of a kichdi kind of thing. Either you go for karma or you come for jnana. You cannot make a combination of the two. Because jnana excludes karma. You are not a karta bhokta anymore in jnana. Therefore, what is the connection with karma? There cannot be. If you want to be a karta bhokta, then jnana and moksha is not for you. Therefore, this is put as an important qualification for the realization of the truth. That qualification is mumukshutvam. Means you should seek freedom and nothing else. If you are seeking so many other things, then you are not seeking freedom. You are seeking bondage. You want to be bound to all these things. Suppose you are seeking wealth. That means you don't mind becoming a slave to wealth. You don't mind being bound to the riches. So you are not seeking freedom anymore. Suppose you seek pleasures, bhoga, then you are binding yourself with these bhogas and you are not seeking freedom. And suppose you want to go to heaven by performing ritual. So the desire for heaven itself is bondage. And the seeking of the heavenly pleasures is indeed bondage. Like any pleasure seeking is bondage, seeking of the pleasures of the heaven is also bondage. And therefore that doesn't come under that doesn't gel with moksha purushartha. And therefore you seek only freedom. Freedom from what? Freedom from seeking of the riches, freedom from the greed of the riches, artha, freedom from the covetousness, namely the seeking of sense pleasures. People covet sense pleasures, you know. That sometimes it is called cupidity. So you need freedom from that. And so you should seek freedom from that. And then freedom from the heaven seeking, etc. That is dharma. You seek freedom from, because that is also bondage. You understand it as bondage and seek freedom from that. So this is how you seek freedom from dharma, artha, kama. And are you sure you want that? Yes. Then you are the candidate for self-realization. And that is sattva guna. Suppose you do not seek freedom. Suppose you seek riches. Means you don't mind remaining in bondage. You seek pleasures. You don't mind remaining in bondage. You seek heaven. You don't mind remaining in bondage. For you, bondage, getting rid of bondage is not the priority. The sense pleasures and the riches are the priority. That is all rajoguna and tamoguna. Rajoguna is the desiring attitude and willingness to remain in slavery to pleasures and riches is tamoguna. Therefore, such people are stuck with rajoguna and tamoguna. They don't know what is sattva. A sattvic mind does not want any bondage. It wants freedom. So, it doesn't want... Freedom means the psychological freedom. That is what... Freedom, it is not independence. You should not confuse mumukshutvam with independence. Independence is what? I will do whatever I like. That is independence. Tonight, I will eat whatever I want. I will go wherever I want to go. I will do whatever I want. That is independence. I will vote to the candidate of my liking. That is independence. So I take the car or a vehicle and go to Haridwar. Why should you do that? I want to do it, therefore I do it. That is independence. That is not freedom. So you should not confuse freedom and independence. Freedom is, you do not psychologically depend upon the other for your inner comfort, for your inner joy, and for your inner fullness. You do not depend upon the other psychologically. That is freedom. Therefore, freedom is psychological freedom. Whereas independence is the felicity to perform physical actions and all that. Therefore, one should distinguish between the two correctly. Therefore, here we are talking of the psychological freedom. Freedom from artha, kama, and even the rituals also. Dharma in the form of rituals. That freedom. Do you want that freedom? Are you sure? Because many people, we come across people, they are good-meaning people. They come to sannyas. There is a fancy about sannyas also. The fanciful thinking is there. They call it shobhanadhyasa. So there is a fanciful thinking. While sitting at home, sannyasa appears very fanciful. And you go to Rishikesh, where it is Devabhumi, and then the sacred Ganga, the heavenly river is flowing in Rishikesh. Naturally it is heavenly river because Gangotri etc. are the heaven. And therefore the river is heavenly. It is coming from the heaven, you know. Glaciers are heavenly. And so, therefore, you can take a bath in sacred river Ganga, and then take to ochre robes, and then take bhiksha, go to Anakshetra and take bhiksha. Like that, there is a lot of fanciful thinking about it. And Bhandara, you sit and eat in Bhandara and be free. So a lot of fanciful thinking will be there. And therefore, they come to sannyas, and after taking sannyas, they discover that they have so much rajoguna in them, they have to perform rituals, this and that, they have to do many worldly things. That kind of rajoguna drives them. That is not the real mumukshutvam. If you have love for rituals, then be a family person and perform the rituals to your heart's content. And that is rajoguna. The sannyasa is not for you. The moksha is not for you. So the love for freedom, anyway, I might have done some big deal about it. Sometimes this kind of a dilation of the topic is also a habit. So that mumukshutvam is the most important qualification. That I want freedom. I don't want anything else. I want freedom. Freedom is what all I want. Freedom is my birthright. That is Balagangadhara Tilak. He said it in the context of Bhagavad Gita commentary. He did not say it in the context of politics. But he employed it in politics. He took it from Gita, his Gita Rahasyam. In that commentary, he says, freedom is my birthright. Freedom is moksha. And then he takes it to political movement. So, that qualification of seeking freedom is indeed a sattvic quality. So, I have finished bhakti and mumukshata. I am coming from behind. Then comes Shraddha. Shraddha is not belief. Shraddha is not belief. Belief is different. Belief is you don't want to think, and somebody else has thought out everything, and a formula is ready-made present, and this formula is coming from generation to generation to generation, and you need not disturb that formula. You should not disturb that formula. And then you should not question that formula. You should not question anything. Because what happens, when you question a thing, already you go beyond. In questioning, you go beyond. Whereas this formula, you should not go beyond it. You have to embrace it and adopt it. Suppose you question the formula, then you have gone beyond it. You see, who is that? Lennon? Lennon is a Beatles guy? John Lennon. So he was a devotee of Maharshi Mahesh Yogi, and he was here for some time. And then, I do not know exact chronology. Sometimes the factual information which I say may go wrong also, please excuse me. The other day I said Patiala. It is not Patiala, it is Panipat. The river, I said Patiala, by mistake I said. Then I finished the class and went for a walk, and then I thought, did I say Patiala? Yeah, that is not Patiala, that is Panipat. So that kind of factual information could go wrong, and you may have to excuse me for that. So this John Lennon, he was here, and along with his other friends, and he wrote a few poems and songs here and sang them as part of his music. And then the Maharshi shifted to Netherlands, to Holland. And then the Beatles people also went there. And after a while, they have parted ways. So John Lennon said goodbye to Maharshi. I am leaving you. I am not following you anymore. Then Maharshi asked him, why? Then Lennon said, you are the spiritual master, you should know. That is what he said. You are asking me why I am leaving, you should know, because you seem to be the spiritual guy. Like that. So when you question, you go beyond. Therefore, the traditional formula, you should not question it. You have to just gulp it. So that is how people are. That is not Shraddha. They call it Shraddha. It is not. Shraddha is, you have to question and you have to investigate. Shrat dha. Shraddha. Shrat tu becomes d. Shraditi satyanama. Shrat dadhati iti Shraddha. Shrat means truth. And that which holds the truth, that is Shraddha. Therefore, you are focused on the truth. You are not focused on a formula, on a tradition, or some of the benefits the tradition or the formula would confer upon you. You see, suppose I am questioning and I am seeking to know the truth, then some benefits will be there with the formula, with the tradition. I will be denied those benefits. I have to keep them away. I will not get those benefits. Suppose I follow the formula, then I will get those benefits. So generally, people are self-seeking, and therefore they prefer to follow a formula rather than question the formula. Therefore, that is not Shraddha. That is a weakness of the mind. And that is covetousness again, seeking so many other worldly things instead of seeking the truth. Whereas in Shraddha, you seek the truth. And the attitude of the mind, that inner organ, the antahkarana, its makeup, the makeup of the consciousness, which seeks truth perseveringly, tenaciously, without giving up the truth, that is called Shraddha. That persevering seeking of truth, like the honeybee seeks honey and doesn't seek anything else. The honeybee is not interested in the beauty of the flower. It's just because a flower is very beautiful, bougainvillea, very beautiful flower, very reddish and all that. But honeybee will not be interested in all. Plenty of flowers will be there for that creeper. But honeybee will not be interested because there is no honey in that. It goes to a wild flower, maybe small, but holding a drop of honey, a micro drop of honey, and therefore it goes to that flower and seeks only honey. So that kind of a homing instinct and that kind of a tenaciousness for the truth, that is called Shraddha. And that quality comes from Sattva, because in Sattva there is always the enthusiasm to know. Shraddha is described as enthusiasm. That is how Swami Vivekananda translated it. He said, intense enthusiasm to know is a Shraddha. That is what he said. To know, not to do. That is different. So that is belief. When you have belief, the religious belief, it confers a tremendous energy on the believing person. Whereas a philosopher will not have that much energy. These religionists, they have peculiarly huge energy in them. And the drive that these religious people have is enormous, mind-boggling drive they have. That is the belief. Belief confers a tremendous energy on the person, on the believing person. Whereas a questioning guy, a philosophical bent, a person with a philosophical bent of mind, cannot muster that kind of energy. Because a philosopher is mostly quiet and calm and quiet. Therefore, Shraddha is of that nature. It is the calmness and quietude of an inquiring mind. Inquiring perseveringly, tenaciously. That is Shraddha. That is again an important quality of Sattva Guna. We'll continue. Om Purnamada Purnamidam